message us on the Cayman CrossTalk Facebook page. Now, back to Cayman CrossTalk on Rooster 101 and simulcast live on Cayman 27.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to Cayman CrossTalk, and I'm here with Dr. Taylor Bauer as we're talking about her seminar that's coming up on Monday of July the 9th. It is from 6 to 9 p.m. It's only $75 per person. It's talking about the Feminine Mindset Seminar Series, and this seminar is a seminar you need if you want to make serious life shifts in your life to achieve what you've always wanted in love, life, and family. And I honestly, Doctor, I just want to say selfishly, I've learned a lot today. And I'm glad that you and I have had this conversation. And there's a lot of others that are listening too. We got some social media that came through. But I'm glad that a professional of your nature and your learning ability and life experiences is frankly articulating something that I think was almost becoming like not normal.
Yeah.
And that we're getting into an atmosphere in a world that we're, I don't know what to call it. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation, and I'm glad that, and I pray that a lot of women will go out there and come to your seminar.
Yes.
For example, there's some social media that came through.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
And I want to read this one for you.
Okay.
It says, "Good morning. When asking yourself, what should I do on the issue of conduct? Look to the penal code that is posted in most government buildings." And they were kind enough to send me a picture, but unfortunately I can't explode it to see what point number 6 is. But all of you go and look for point number 6. I'm going to find it somewhere and go look for point number 6. The answers that many questions on how we women are forfeiting the female right to modesty in order not to avoid being labeled like prudes or difficult and or bitches for the speaking up for their boundaries, which by law should already be protected. Therefore, the real question is, do we have to accept unwelcome comments and gestures in order to accept and not negatively be labeled, even though the law is already there that should be protecting us women?
So I think the law that they're talking about is that one about insulting the modesty of a woman in this premises. Right, so that is not the sexual harassment law, and what I would say is review that law, and there is a complaint process there as well. But we need to be careful because we cannot err on the side of the most sensitive person, right? If, like you said, we can't go around controlling people's eye movements.
Yeah, you looked at me in an awkward way.
Right?
I felt violated.
So we have to be reasonable. We have to say, what is a reasonable expectation of what's going to be offensive? Every entity, every company in their policy needs to really consider the middle ground, like something that a reasonable person would consider obviously offensive, right? Not like, okay, well, there may be a person that's very offended by this, because then everything's ruled out, right? So that's number one. But number two, unwanted conduct is the really important point there, which is why I said we need to articulate what we want or not. And I've discussed this with peers and groups of people as well. Sometimes people are okay with certain things. People are okay with telling funny jokes or whatever. And that's okay if everyone agrees to it. But what happens is there might be a bystander, right? Someone that walks in the room that's not actually intended to be participating in this acceptable behavior with these people. And so then they're highly offended by whatever their conduct is. And so that's still protected by the sexual harassment law. And so the first sort of line of defense is to say something, is to say, okay, well, I think that's really inappropriate. I don't like that. And so then that group of people is going to be much more careful about what they do around in a public place, right? So they'll be, in privacy, behind closed doors, maybe wait until they're out of work to participate in whatever it is they're doing, like looking at social media that is sexualized or whatever. But the other issue is that if a person walks in or walks by or witnesses something that they find offensive that's not being done to them, they can just walk out, right? That is our first line of defense, is to not accept it personally.
Right.
And just go about our business and not be affected by it. But no, I don't really like what those people do when they're socializing, so I'm going to avoid them. That's our first line of defense, our personal boundaries.
you pick and choose your battles in essence, and to that end. And you know, I wonder, you know, where I want everyone to feel empowered, and obviously any kind of touching in
Sure,
any kind of way.
yeah.
To me, that is, I think everyone knows. I don't think it's unreasonable. I mean, we had a high-ranking government official saying, "Well, it's our culture to grab ass," right?
Yeah, no.
Bonking. No, I don't think, to be honest with you, I will ever do that. And I've never really done that unless it was somebody that I was dating or I knew. But the point is, I'm just wondering, even in the workforce, any kind of touching of that nature is a no-no
But-
in my mind.
But again, it's unwanted, right? Because we can't say, if the policy is not no fraternization, then we can't say two people can't have a comfort level physically with each other, right? I mean, I grew up around hugs. You know, my mother and my
Same
father are
with
both
me.
huggers. So to me, a hug is not necessarily an unwanted thing, but it also depends on the person, and it depends on relationships, like previous relationships, and a lot of different things. So what we need to do to protect people is to
Right.
say, one, know what your boundaries are, then communicate them, and then when it's unwanted is when you say, that doesn't make me comfortable. I really would prefer that you don't give me hugs, or you don't do this, or whatever, right? Then if that person continues to do it, that's harassment.
Okay.
So that's where it really is reasonable to say, okay, there is an offense happening and we need to curb this and we need to respond and intervene.
Well, for example, to this one poster's point, obviously they took some time, and I want to sincerely thank them for
Sure.
taking the time to express their concern. For example, this individual, obviously it's not unreasonable to think that this person is a subordinate. There's others above her. How do individuals like that feel intimidated? For example, like you, I grew up in an environment of calling people sweetie, darling, and kind of hugging, just as gentle as you and I greeted earlier.
Sure,
And
yeah.
sometimes I wonder whether or not it's the just thing to do, but it just kind of comes out, right? I know, and sometimes I got to pick my battles of who I go after, and sometimes you can feel it.
Yeah.
But in the work environment, how does people like that, that if a boss, for example, a superior comes up to you and gives you a hug, and right away you felt, look, this is not just a normal, like, just a come on, you're greeting, hi Taylor, how you doing?
Right.
This was just, I just felt a little uncomfortable. How could someone like that have a conversation with a superior when they're feeling intimidated, that I'm worried whether or not maybe I might get terminated, or
Yeah,
my performance review is going to be mucked up?
that would be a tenuous situation, right? You don't want to have in a work environment, that's a hostile work environment, when someone feels that
It's pretty sad.
they're at risk of losing their job for speaking up about their boundaries,
Yeah.
right? So then they're not safe. But are they assuming that it's not okay because they're afraid to speak up for themselves? That's always my first question. If they are, what's their proof that this is not safe for them to say? Maybe it's just a pattern of behavior, this victim mindset, that has been embedded. If not, let's just go on the case that it's true and it's valid. This person is
They can make their
slimy.
life a living hell.
Yeah, like let's just say that it is in a hostile work environment. Then you have to know your recourses, right? So if you don't have a strong human resources department where you can have a confidant, you can go to them, or even anonymously make a complaint internally, right? In this case, if it wasn't just a glance but an actual touch, then it would be important to respond to that. But if you don't know who the person is or what the circumstances are, you can't really investigate it. So people have to understand that there is a law here to protect you, and if you want to go outside of the company, you can just go to the gender affairs for the gender equality legislation law. There is a complaints procedure, so they can go straight to that process and circumvent all of their concerns in their workplace. But I don't think a lot of people are aware that they can do that, and that if the workplace tries to be like keep it hush hush and not respect that person's rights, that's illegal activity. That's in contradiction of the law. So we need to really educate people that they can't just brush it under the rug.
Well, I got another one for you.
Sure.
And
Sorry, I get very passionate about this stuff.
Oh no, I'm loving the conversation. So society is headed into being more individualized. It fits the agenda of those that do want us to be together as one. Separatism is what we have been indoctrinated with to keep us apart. What we need is one love. And it says your guest is promoting the agenda. Example: male and female wars.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I'm not promoting male and female wars at all. If anything, I want us to get along. I'm promoting healthy relationships. That is my entire mission. So my agenda is to talk to people and educate people with the information that I have and to see how they're feeling and what they're thinking and what their goals are. Because if their goal is to alienate themselves from society or alienate themselves from having a healthy relationship, then maybe they're doing a good job of that. And I'm not going to, impose my belief system on them. But if they're not trying to do that and they are unhappy, I want to look at how can they actually make some significant changes in their lives so that they learn how to be more cohesive and collaborative with the opposite sex. Because socio-political trends have really created this divide between men and women. And I just want to say this because I don't think this is very apparent, but there's another word that we need to talk about other than misogynist. It's misandry, which is the opposite, right? And so we need to recognize that is it's happening.
Well, women
a lot.
Men. Absolutely. That
right?
was something I want to talk about. Maybe part two.
Yeah, exactly.
But Doctor, I just want to say, I honestly, it's been a breath of fresh air this morning, and I was pleasantly pleased and surprised of your articulations and expressions this morning of the differences, because for someone like me, I've been confused and trying to grapple with it myself. I consider myself relatively well read. I try to pay attention as much as possible. But you're the first person in a long while that to me came and spoke sense to me, from especially my generation, and really putting back the perspective of women. Respect yourselves. You have this innate beauty about you. Embrace it. Be who you are and do it in a certain way. And before we end, I want you to promote your seminar again. Hopefully we can have you back on again and talk about the other issues.
Yes.
But I want people to really come by and be empowered by you to break down that victim mindset.
Yeah.
Because I want people to live a life that is happy and free. And that is something that I keep preaching even to my daughter. And sometimes one wonders whether or not you feel empowered enough. And there's something I believe that if you empower someone and make them believe in themselves, one day they can be anything and everything that they want to be, not the vision of someone else.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. I mean, I have the support of Art Nest to provide this seminar at their facility. And they're really encouraging my ideas, and I think that we need this kind of platform. We don't really have anything like this, and it's kind of a new thing globally as well. But I know $75 seems like maybe a lot of money to some people, but basically it's a very condensed intervention, right? It's really confronting major issues that can have significant impact in one's life, really turning your life around. Because I'm a quite skilled professional in my field, and basically what I'm going to be doing is high intensive work with a group of people that attend this seminar. And I want to see them leave with a whole new leaf turned and to have their eyes opened. And hopefully we'll have more. I want to make this a global thing. I want to make this an international phenomenon, not just about me, but in general, other people facilitating things like this as well.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Burrows, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you for enlightening me this morning. I'm looking forward to part two of our conversation as well. And Leroy, I want to sincerely thank you for putting up the flyers there. This Monday, July the 9th, and it's at artnestcayman.com for more event information. Please join me tomorrow. It's going to be another dynamic day. And for everyone, I really mean this. If you have a pet, please consider spaying or neutering that pet today to keep the unwanted pet population low. In addition, I beg you, I sincerely implore you, go out and enjoy yourself. Please do so responsibly by not drinking and driving, and certainly not boating and drinking. Until tomorrow, Godspeed, Cayman. I'm your host, Woody DaCosta.
3, 2, 1. Here
Excellent.
And if people want my contact information, feel free to give it to them.
Alrighty.
Free country music.
Cool. Thanks.